Ms. Diener, Mr. Smith, members of the Carr Jefferson family, members of the jury. On the night of October 11th, Aaron's friend, Aaron Dean, never thought he'd be putting on his Fort Worth police uniform for the last time. Nor did he ever think he'd be here today before you with the charge of murder. He's a young officer working a deep night shift, 8 to 6. Check it a little early in the 7 o'clock hour. As that shift went on, during the middle of his shift, he's assigned a call, the call that we're here to talk about today. And as he goes through that call, he gets to the backyard. And as soon as he and his partner go in the backyard, they're immediately presented with a situation that they have to deal with. As soon as Aaron enters the backyard, he sees a silhouette in the window. Aaron sees that silhouette in the window, and that silhouette has a firearm. That silhouette has a firearm with a green laser mounted on the front rail of that firearm, pointed directly at Aaron, closer than me to you to the window. Aaron has an air conditioning unit to his right, a gate and obstruction of a fence to his left, and his partner is butt cheek to butt cheek behind him. He has no place to go. He takes a half a step back, gives the commands as part of training, draws his weapon for the first and only time right then, and fires one shot. And tragically, a top gun in Jefferson is killed as a result of that. How did he get there? That's the question. And remember from Fort Dyer, we start having to talk about the calculousness of reasonableness in this case. For that's what we're really talking about. Was it reasonable for Aaron to do what he did? That's the test for police officers when they use deadly force. It's an officer's worst nightmare around the world to have to draw their weapon and use it in defense of not only themselves or for others. So we have to start looking at what Aaron knew at the time. What did he know at the time? What data was given to Aaron at the time he responded to this call? This case is about facts and not emotion. You can have all the grandiose opening statements about emotion and words and everything else, but we have to get back to the facts. So let's start with James Smith. James Smith enters the stage in this case when he makes a non-emergency call to Fort Worth Communications. Let's talk about Fort Worth Communications for a second. The state at the end of their opening said it was a 911 call. That's common for both tables. We'll probably slip up at the end. It was to the non-emergency number. Fort Worth Communications is based over just behind TCU on the west side of Fort Worth. It's a large room that has multiple stations. Each station will receive calls. One day you may be a call taker taking non-emergency numbers. You may be at the same shift if it got busy taking 911 calls. Everybody's trained the same. Everybody sits at a console that's identical. That's the call taker role. When you call Fort Worth, whether it's non-emergency or 911, they're all trained, and collectively they're all trained in the county together so they can cross over if there's an event. If somebody loses communication, say at Arlington, Fort Worth takes their calls. There's a very robust system for that. Mr. Smith calls the non-emergency number as a result of what his relatives have seen throughout the night. The doors have been open since 10. These glass storm doors that the smoke's being let out of have been open since 10. He calls, and as a result of what the communications officer hears, the call taker picks what code in the system to place upon a call. It could be a welfare check. It could be an open structure. It could be a robbery. It could be anything that they call the police department for. When we start talking about stuff like this, they follow general orders. at communications. They have a playbook. This is what I'm being told from the caller. How do I code it to get officers there? Based on what Mr. Smith said to the communications officer. Not what he thought he said, not what he told the media several days later he said. What he said on that call was that it was an open structure. That's what the operator took and coded. In the city of Fort Worth, that gets coded as a signal 56, an open structure.
Need to take a break as we approach the top of the hour. We will stop it right here. We'll pick up the defense opening statement when we return. I want to thank Anton Bell for his time and expertise on this Monday. Back after this.
With Nature's Bounty.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We're in Texas for two trials today. In San Antonio, testimony continues in the Border Patrol serial killer trial. Prosecutors say that Juan David Ortiz fatally shot two women back in 2018, which led police to believe there could be a serial killer on the loose in the border town of Laredo, Texas. A third alleged victim escaped, helped them track down Ortiz, but not before he allegedly killed two more women in the hours before his arrest, bringing the total to 4. You can watch the trial as the prosecution wraps up their case. They expect to finish by tomorrow. That is over on courttv.com because we are in Fort Worth now. Opening statements underway in the killing while babysitting trial. Defendant Aaron Dean was a police officer at the time where he is accused of killing 28-year-old Tatiana Jefferson in her home back in October of 2019. We've heard from the prosecution of their opening and the beginning of the defense opening statement. We're going to pick it up right where we left off last hour with the rest of the defense opening statement.
For the police officers, they, in their patrol cars, both Officer Darch and Officer Dean, have what's called an MDC, or mobile data computer, plus their radio in the car and their handheld radio that you see on the officers that have taken you in and out of the courtroom here, and you'll see throughout the common gear. So they have their computer, they have their handheld, and they have their car radio. When the city of Fort Worth cuts an officer loose on a call, it's simple. They give them the call through the MDC, and they give it to them over the radio in case they're not in their car at the time, so they can hear it. Officer Dean was the primary officer. You may hear a Fort Worth officer during this trial say he was the sheet officer. He was assigned to, was his beat. Right? He's the primary, Darch is his backup. For open doors, why do they need two? Because in Fort Worth's general orders for communications, it's a priority 2 call. Priority 1 being the highest, usually lights and sirens. Priority 2 is just below it. A priority 2 call requires 2 officers. If 2 officers aren't available, the general orders say the sergeant or lieutenant on patrol in that area is assigned as the second officer. If the sergeant or lieutenant are not available, it goes to a neighboring area until there's 2 officers there. For officer safety, priority 2 call. Darch makes it their first, Dean gets their second. I think the evidence will show that Darch goes to the wrong house first. They come back, look in the squad again, and get the right address. And they walk up to the front of the address. Remember, what did they know and when did they know it? Here's what they're told when they're going to the call, both on the radio, for the ear, and for them to read. Complainant advised front doors to addresses open. Both the neighbors' vehicles are in the driveway. White sedan and dark colored sedan. Neighbors are usually home, but never has door open. The word welfare is never said. They're given a signal 56. It's not a welfare check to Dean and Darch. The doors are open. That's what they have as the data elements when they arrive on scene. In addition to the communications general orders, the city of Fort Worth has a rather extensive set of general orders for officers. Communications is called Play 56. play 56, signal 56, takes them to a certain section in the general orders for how officers that have just come out of training, been to the academy, had this book drilled into them day in and day out. Signal 56 is an open structure. You go to that in the book, it says treat it like a silent alarm. Burglary of a building, a silent alarm. Silent alarm, you don't park in the front of the building or structure or residence. And I think Officer Darch will make that very clear to you when she testifies. She did to the detectives that were asking her the questions. You don't park in front for officer safety. So they park down the street on Mississippi, short distance away, and walk up. Silent alarm says you don't reveal your position. You check to make sure if there's any forced entry on the structure. And in fact, as it tells you what you're supposed to do, the unit in charge of the call shall inspect the structure to determine if there's any signs of forced entry. Any signs of forced entry. It doesn't say just on one side. It doesn't say that you just look here and stop. Those officers walk up to the front door. And at that point, you're going to see Dean's body camera come on. When they looked inside and saw the mess that was inside the front of this residence, through the front door, you see the living room. Through the living room, it's kind of a living room combo kitchen. Upper cabinets in the kitchen are out, open, stuff strewn all over the floor. The living room looks like it's been ransacked. You're going to hear from both Carol Darch and others that went out there what this scene looked like when they were there. That's a data element for these two. These two see a house that to them appears to be ransacked. We're on a signal 56. It's treated as a silent alarm. They have to be quiet. They're not knocking on the door because that's not what the rules tell them to do. And they see what to them, what Darch is going to tell you, looks like a burglary in progress. Because the house should never look like that in their mind. That's what this looks like inside. They go down the side. They have to step over a weed eater. They have to step over a mower. Data elements that may sound simple to others, to an officer that works the beats in this area, this is a neighborhood in transition. Mr. Smith and his other neighbors have worked hard to get the criminal element out of their neighborhood. Yet it's still a rough neighborhood. The mosque church next door, the air conditioning units have a 10-foot fence and a steel cage and concertina wire and steel cage fencing around all the first floor windows. Miss Jefferson's AC unit has a steel cage welded around it, and it's new construction. Things that are left outside at night tend to disappear. Burglars tend to leave stuff piled up to take away if there's a burglary in progress. You walk over a weed eater, there's a mower out at 2 in the morning. There's a young man's bicycle out down the left side. They clear the vehicles because that's what they're trained to do at the academy. They split. Carol down one side, Aaron down the other. They meet at the gate. This gate opens up to the out, it swings to the left. It's about 8 fence panels wide is this gate. Hinged on the outside, opens and swings. It's an odd angle when you look at it. When you open the gate and come through, you're immediately confronted with a window on your left. And that's the window we're talking about. It's a rather large, spacious backyard, brand new fence, brand new structure really for the most part. Something that I don't think you would expect when you see the photos for this part of the neighborhood as the community's bringing the neighborhood back. Darch goes into the right, Dean goes in the left, they're covering each other. You're going to hear from Darch that they start what they call slicing the pie. As they're covering each other, they start working the backyard in sections to make sure there's not a threat. Darch has Dean's back, Dean has Darch's back. Dean has to clear the open window he passes. Because after the door on the right-hand side of the structure up front that was open, there's no other windows for them to clear prior to getting to the backyard. Following their general orders for what a signal 56 is, go see silent alarm. Silent alarm says you inspect the structure for forced entry. Dean comes across that window. At that window, he sees a silhouette. He doesn't know if it's male or female, doesn't know the racial makeup of the silhouette. He sees it, he sees the green laser and the gun come up on him. He takes a half a step back, gives a command, and fires his weapon. After the shot's fired, they call out. Depending if it's radio traffic, both of them key their mic at the same time. The first one that keys wins. Only one broadcast goes out. You can hear it from Dean's body camera, what they're asking for, a supervisor and MedStar. Darch tells Dean, you got to get in there. We got to get in. Dean tries to go through the window. That's his first reaction. They go in, they clear the house. They get inside, and Dean does find the weapon. He moves the weapon away. In training, Dean and Darch are taught to move the weapon away from anybody that's been involved in a critical incident. It's part of their training. When Dean moves the weapon away, you'll see the green laser emitting still from it on the camera. The same green laser that was pointed at Dean, and in turn pointed at Darch's back. Because if Dean steps out of the way, then it's his wingman that gets hit with the laser. It'd be painting her back. It's true from what the state just told you that her injuries were incompatible with life at that point. Darch took the little boy all the way outside, and you're going to hear from a sergeant, if the state calls her, who it's her officers, it's her scene. Fabulous sergeant. Okay. She runs that scene, and there's an officer that is given custody of the boy and takes care of him like it's his own. Young Zion's a brave man. They start a process, as the state told you in their opening. Everybody from the mayor's office on down is notified. One of the people that's notified in this case is of particular interest to y'all. Her name is Lindsay Dula. Okay. And Lindsay's specialty, she's nationwide known. Lindsay's specialty is interviewing children. Lindsay's specialty is interviewing children that have faced traumatic events. And Lindsay is called in to the place where she works called the Alliance for Children. And the Alliance for Children is a place that is set up for audio and video recording. It's a safe place for children. It's a safe place to record children and interview them so somebody that's professionally trained in interviewing a young child can interview somebody and get the information at one time. There's viewing rooms. There's observation rooms. Lindsay primarily does this for cases involving crimes against children. But there was forethought by the sergeant at the scene and the lieutenants and the captains that showed up to bring in the crimes against children or CACU units to assist with this. Young Mr. Carr is taken to the Alliance for Children. And Lindsay Dula interviews him. And I anticipate that you're going to hear from Mr. Carr probably even this morning. And there's some key takeaways I think you're going to hear from him. One, he recognizes the Fort Worth badge. And when Lindsay's talking to him, he knows it's the male that shot, not the female. So we start to talk about and see what was seen from the inside, from the eyes of an 8-year-old. And he'll tell you, he acted it out for Lindsay, hopefully he'll tell you here, that his aunt raised the gun up and didn't do what the officer told her to do. Because the camera doesn't catch everything. The camera catches what you can see from Dean's left shoulder. Back to those data elements. What did Dean know at the time? And what did he do with it? They interviewed Darch, Officer Darch, Major Case does. Carr's interview's over at 5:30 in the morning. Darch's interview's over at 7:07 in the morning. So before the rooster crows 3 times, they knew, they being the government, pretty good idea what took place out there. That gun was relevant. Everybody in Texas, everybody in the United States has a right to defend themselves in their home. This is a tragic accident. That gun was placed in the line of a police officer. A green laser was placed on the officer. That officer considered that to be deadly force against him and reacted accordingly. And tragically, Ms. Jefferson lost her life. You're going to be charged in this court's charge at the end as to whether or not that act by Aaron was reasonable under the definitions that the judge will give you. We ask you to keep an open mind throughout this week. It'll go into next as the evidence is brought forward. And as you're looking at the evidence in the sterile courtroom, it's what did Aaron know at the time, not after the fact. Once the shot's fired, we have a different story. Okay? There's no doubt in my mind that Ms. Jefferson was a great person. The law requires you, when you consider a use of force shooting like this with the police, is what did the officer know at the time that wasn't reasonable? All the stories that have gone on post that, I think you'll see this week are not true. We look forward to you having this case at the end. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.